Welcome back to I Need a Coach, where we interview top coaches, experts, authors, and speakers, hear their stories of success, how they build their business, and give you some ideas on growing yours. My name's Adam Packard. I'm the host, and for the last 7 years, we worked with over 500 coaches and consultants, helping them grow their outreach and organic reach using LinkedIn, lead generation, and business development. Today's guest is Dan Steininger, and Dan's been a lawyer for 10 years, turned CEO, and now does leadership coaching. You are going to love the stories that he shares about some of the people that he's worked with. And he'll give you the 2 things that he recommends every coach know when they get into the coaching business. So I hope you enjoy this interview. All right, welcome back to I Need a Coach. Today I am joined by Dan Steininger. Dan, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Adam, and thanks for clarifying that. I thought I was going for a golf lesson today. You set me straight. My heart's broken, but I'll do what you want. I'll do what you want me to do.
I already told you, only clients, Dan. Only clients get the golf lesson. So you just drop that other guy whenever you're ready, and I'll help you tee it up better. Good to have you on. Thanks for coming. So let's kind of just start off and give the audience a little bit of a taste of who you are and kind of who you help, some of the coaching that you do now, and then we'll start there.
Super. A quick story. Kind of tracks what you did, Adam. You had a gig of your own in the golfing world and finally came to a conclusion you needed to do a mid-year correction, which you have, and gone on to an entrepreneurial endeavor. Well, I went in my youth, I went to one of the good law schools on the East Coast, practiced law for almost a decade. One of my clients was a large financial institution that had all sorts of problems. And as a lawyer, that was great because you get more billings. They knew the management team. Anyhow, the CEO became incapacitated. So the board of directors asked me to take it over. And I said, wait a second. I had a lot of friends at the Harvard Business School. I don't want to go into business. And they said, yeah, but we can't have. So they said, okay, let them run this thing on a part-time basis until you find somebody. Well, this went on for a year. I made some changes and the company started going a lot better. So at that point, my partner said, look, you either run a business or you're out of the law practice, but we can't have a partner and we could get sued. So I met with somebody, not a formal coach, but he became a mentor. And he asked me, Dan, he said, what's your problem? I said, well, my training is as a lawyer and not as a business leader. The company's got management problems. It needs a turnaround situation. I went on and on and on. And when I finished all that, he said, the problem with you, Dan, you don't understand. If that company were well run, you wouldn't want the job. And with that advice, I took it, became the CEO and grew that by about $2 billion in assets and a couple other leadership roles. So that taught me the value of coaching and helping and mentoring. Had I tried to make that decision on my own, who knows what kind of decision I would have made. So if you're going to get into coaching or you want to coach, you want somebody who has a personal story, why it's been meaningful to them in their lives. And I'm sure you reached out to people, Adam, when you made your shift. So there's the long and the short of why I do this after jumping out of corporate America and having been a leadership role all those years. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Cool story. So what type of coaching do you do now? And like, who's your ideal client that you work with?
Okay. And this leads right to a very important point. I focus primarily on leadership, because that's what I have led public and private companies all my life. And so basically I help people understand what are the basics of leadership. And so that's where I focus. And the number one rule I always say, if you want to do leadership coaching, I will tell the coaches and I will tell anybody wanting to hire a coach, what's your bio? You taught golf. I would not want to take a golf lesson from someone who had never golfed. Now, you said you were intimidated when you had to give a golf lesson you had never given one before, but I would bet on you because you were a good golfer. You knew what the guy's got. If he's, got this way in his grip, he's shifting the wrong way. You saw things. So whoever you get as a coach, you have to have a bio. What's your leadership? What were your metrics? How did you grow those companies? What's your success rate? Who are the leadership teams you put in place? The coach you hire better have a bio that's something that you can benefit by and who can tell you stories about what to do, and had experiences. So that would be the number one requirement of anyone wanting to get into coaching or wanting to hire a coach. Look at the biography. There's a lot of people say, I want to be a coach. Good luck. What's your bio? What have you achieved in life? So,
Yeah. So when did you formally start your coaching practice?
Okay. When I hopped out of corporate America, it's been about a decade, I started writing a column called Innovate or Die because I head up a financial institution which required a turnaround. I headed up the port of Milwaukee, which is an international port, which was basically sinking. And I got put in charge of that as well. And so when I got finished all those, turned them around, I started writing a major column called Innovate or Die for a big business publication. That led to a couple of books on innovation, and that led to companies hiring me to coach leadership teams at the top, focused primarily on creativity and innovation. So from that, I serve as a mentor, trusted advisor to people in leadership roles, or I train their management teams how to drive innovation and at the top of an organization. So
got it. So what did you do before you were a lawyer for 10 years? Was that what you did right out of school?
Well, one of the things I did is I worked on a golf course in Glacier Park, Montana.
Okay.
It was a scrub course, but I'll tell you something. You want great golf? You golf in the Rocky Mountains, the crown jewel of the Rocky Mountains up in Glacier. So, and I got free golf lessons from my pro because we didn't have much business. Anyhow, before I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, went to law school on the East Coast, I interrupted my legal education, spent 2 years as a Peace Corps volunteer in Kenya, East Africa. And for what it's worth, and I taught students in upcountry Kenya. I didn't even know where it was when I over there. But you had to learn Swahili, which I can still speak to this day, which is always kind of funny. How many people you know can speak Swahili? So a couple of years,
you're the only one.
You got that right. And then returned to law school, finished on the East Coast, spent some time out there, and then returned to my hometown, Milwaukee, where I practiced law and then went on to become the CEO of a major company. So in a turnaround. So that's awesome. Short end of the bio.
So now coaching full time, or are you part time because you're living the good life and retired, or are you still going 40, 50 hours a week?
I flunked retirement. I flunked retirement big time. So I've got a home in Milwaukee. I've got a home in Phoenix, Arizona. Yes, I coach and trust advisor at the top. I speak nationally, internationally, on the topic, primarily creativity, leadership, and innovation. Act as a trusted advisor, continue to publish books and even a newsletter. So anyone wants a free newsletter, they can go to Dan Steininger. It's like a beer stein, and just check on my newsletter and hit subscribe, and you'll get some tips, once or twice a month. So it'll make your life a lot easier.
How many books have you written?
I've got 2, and I'm working on the 3rd one. So
okay.
Well, when you go to law school, they train you to write. So, but then when you combine all your experiences as a business leader, you've got a lot of war stories and insights you can bring to people. So
yeah, no, for sure. So what's the 3rd book? What are you working on now?
That's going to be focused more on personal creativity. One of the things I'm sure you've noticed that all the coaches and leaders all go to the companies and say, I want you all to think outside the box. Well, guess what? If you're not living a personal life, personal creativity, how is that going to translate into thinking outside the box at work? And I start with I said, personal creativity, if you know how to do it, I call the secret sauce of personal creativity. It can also help save your life. Quick story, since I'm outside of Phoenix right now, where I have my winter home. So I'm hiking last year in spring, and I used my hiking poles, and I heard a rattle. And bam, almost simultaneously, I get bit on the back of the ankle. And it was a rattlesnake. So I turn around, turn to my wife, you better call 911. This isn't going to have a good ending. And he slithered behind me, and I had my hiking pole. I wanted to whack him, but I didn't, which was good because the doctor who treated me in the emergency room said, I've been bitten. I've had to treat guys with 3 or 4 bites from the same snake. Anyhow, so they came, checked my vitals. I could see the parking lot, and we were at the end of the trail. They walked me back to the helicopter. Out comes the captain, and he introduces himself. Hi, I'm Captain Kirk. I said, if you're Captain Kirk, I'm the Easter Bunny. But since we had learned, by the way, while waiting for the helicopter, I turned to my wife and said, look, I was an Eagle Scout. You need to suck out the venom. And she gave me the look like, sure, divorce first. I said, okay, but I'm writing my funeral oration now. And guess what? She got the bottle of True Grit style, John Wayne, and started sucking out the venom.
Did she really?
She did it. She did it. So I get to the emergency room at Banner Hospital. And by the way, there's a message to all this. I get visited by the top toxicologist in the state of Arizona. And by the way, my technician has just fainted because he thinks I'm making this all up. So she says, I needed to see you. Your case is unusual. I said, I don't like the sound of that. And she said, oh, no, you have less venom in you than the average rattlesnake bite. I said, and I explained the whole thing. She goes, well, our scientific studies say this and that. I said, well, you're going to have to explain why I have less venom in me and why the miners and the ranchers and the cowboys all settled as they didn't have anti-venom. So anyhow, end this all, several weeks later, it's like 6 weeks later before your leg is down enough where you can actually walk again. And I'm in the Sky Harbor Airport, which Phoenix has 5 million people. Now, I'm in this huge airport. People are coming up to me and saying, how's your rattlesnake bite? So how do you know about my rattlesnake bite? Oh, we saw you in the evening news. They have changed all their procedures with rattlesnake. Now they take the antivenom to the field because the quicker they get it in you, the more effective. And the reason I tell that story, there are many things that in that instance, creativity wise, first of all, getting some of the venom out of me with my wife, getting the EMTs to make sure that they knew what was happening before so they could bring the antivenom. And all the things that actually change procedures here in Arizona. So creativity can actually save your life. I've had malaria in East Africa, up in the bush country. If it weren't for some creativity, I've almost died so many times, I wonder why I'm still alive. So so there's personal benefits to it. So there's a little bit about the background and why I teach personal creativity. So,
well, I love the fact that every time I ask you a question, you answer it with a story. And I think there's power in that, right? I mean, if you're, stories sell, right? Facts tell and stories sell is what I've always been told. So if you can relate to someone and share a story, it's easier to remember.
Well, Adam, you're right. Anthropologically, if you go back thousands of years before we even have written language, the only way you could tell a history of your tribe or who you were is through stories. So storytelling has been a big part of, and that's why I say when you hire a coach or you're looking for a coach, you need someone who's had the stories, who's been in leadership roles. And those stories can be teaching opportunities. And so as a result, I'll give you a good example. One of the earliest things that happened to me, and when you pick a coach, here's an example why you want someone who's had those experiences. I assembled the entire 12 vice presidents are reporting to me, and we're a couple months into the job, and something really bad happened, and it get in the media. So I called the meeting and said, "How did this happen?" And everyone's going, "Well, no one's saying anything." I said, "Well, we'll stay here all day." Someone raised their hand and I said, "Well, we get in trouble." I said, "No, I want you to tell the truth." And I said, and the guy said, "Well, the honesty, Dan, it was your idea." I said, "My idea?" "Yeah, I remember a couple of weeks ago, I was walking down the hallway and I said, 'Do you think we should try something like this?' You said, 'Go for it.'" And there was a long pause, and 12 vice presidents would look at me. I said, "Well, that may be the dumbest thing I've ever done." Now, it's that ability as a leader to say, I really admit to my mistakes. And what's important about that, when I was doing some research in law school, and this is a true story, so it's confirmed with what I went through, for leadership, Captain Oso was the head of a captain, Japan Airlines, flew into San Francisco Harbor. And he brought that airline in one day, so a mile short of the runway, in the ocean, in the port, in the bay. It was such a nice landing, the passengers didn't even know they had landed short of the runway until they looked out the window and saw sailboats. Okay, fast forward, they have this, and by the way, everyone got out safely. Fast forward to the hearing by the FAA, in which he's sworn under oath to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. Now, Captain Oso, we're going to have this big investigation. 6 months from now, we'll issue a report, findings of fact. Do you understand? Yes. So, in your judgment, how did this happen? So the record goes, Captain Oso, long pause. How you Americans say it, Captain Oso, screw up. 15 minutes later, the hearing was over. So telling those stories about a leader being willing to admit their mistakes and how it's affected me personally as a leader, and so you get a coach, you want somebody who's made mistakes. I don't hire anybody who haven't been in the trenches, who haven't had personal or professional failures. Even your story, how you turned around a career which was eating you up alive. Those are important stories. I don't want people who've never had problems. So anyhow, those are what I teach as part of the coaching thing. So when you select coaches or hire people, make sure they've been in the trenches, they've suffered, they've had the journey. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. So when you started the coaching business, did you basically just go to your warm market? Did you just tell everybody, "Hey, I'm now doing coaching"? Did it just kind of happen organically? How did it kind of start?
Well, yeah, you're right. Nothing happens organically. You name a business, even the golfing business or your podcasting business. I'm going to just sit around and wait for people to come. No. You're very proactive in what you do, Adam. Anyone who runs a business, you can't sit around waiting. So I had corporate, I knew people in the industry. I was a member of the World Presidents Organization, so I had a lot of contacts. And when I let people know, look, I'm here to help out. If you got a problem, let me know. And so I started word of mouth that Dan's going to help you out. And then when you do it, people, "Oh, well, that was great. You helped our team. We're making better decisions," yada, yada. So in the process, as a leader, you did a lot of things instinctively. I noticed things about leadership, and this is important. And I'll explain a lot about coaching. Steve Jobs, preeminent world-class entrepreneur, resisted developing the iPhone from his engineers for almost a year. He belittled them publicly in private, called them names that I'll never be a phone company. Today, the iPhone represents 45% of Apple Computer's revenues. Elon Musk, as everyone knows recently, or maybe a year and a half ago on his own admission, this brilliant SpaceX electric vehicle genius bought Twitter and overpaid by 5 times for it and admits it was stupid. If people like that can make such dumb mistakes, how is that possible? So what I tell leaders, one of the important qualities you need as a leader, and I tell that to anyone, look, it's called confirmation confidence. We all make decisions. Most of them are right. Well, hey, we're pretty good. I must know what I'm doing. I'm really brilliant. And that leads even the best of the best to make dumb decisions. So I teach the idea of confirmation confidence. You get overconfident. And how do you make sure you build an organization as leadership that people are going to push back on your brilliance? Because that's the mistake we all make. We don't have to be Elon Musk or Steve Jobs to make that. And again, naturally, I have to tell a story. Early in my career as a CEO, I was gobbling up every consultant I could. And one was Professor Harvey from George Washington University. He said, he's written a book on it. It's called A Trip to Abilene. Okay, his family's in the panhandle of Texas at Cole. Never heard of the town, but it's about 60 miles from Abilene. Hot on a Sunday afternoon, they're all sitting on the porch. They have the swamp cooler going, which is wet hay and a fan. Everywhere's hot. And Granddad says to the group, does anyone want to go to Abilene for dinner? Well, Jerry said, I turned to my wife and said, well, honey, I'm sure you want to go. And she goes, oh, I know you want to go. And then Grandma starts lacing up her shoes. So they all got in the old Packard, go across the panhandle of Texas. The dust is coming in, no air conditioning. It was a miserable trip. They eat at the Greasy Spoon Cafe, he said, miserable dinner. Then back across the panhandle of Texas. Get there at 8 o'clock at night. They're sitting on that porch. They're so miserable, no one can even talk. Finally, after an hour, someone says, whose idea was it to go to Abilene? And someone said, well, Granddad, it was your idea. I said, it wasn't my idea. I was just throwing things out. Jerry turns to his wife and said, well, honey, I thought you wanted to go. And then meantime, Grandma starts crying. So they spent the next couple hours. How did a group of people all go to Abilene when no one really wanted to go? Now, fast forward to the Watergate hearings when Charles Colson was being interviewed in Congress. At any time prior to the break-in of the Democratic headquarters, did anyone say, maybe this is a dumb idea? And no, but what if they would have? And he said, we wouldn't have done it. So I teach the importance of reaching out to people, find out everyone on your team. You hear opposing viewpoints. And White House or the military sometimes creates a murder team to fight against those ideas. So anyhow, so there's again a lesson in humility. So, and why it's important, and you can improve your leadership style.
That's awesome. Now I know from a marketing perspective, you still do outreach. You still reach out and start new conversations. Have you always done that? Have you always been proactive? And what does that look like now that you're more established?
When you're the CEO of a company, you hire yourself a chief marketing officer. And I probably read 300 or 400 books on marketing, but you hire good talent. And then you have to approve, disapprove marketing plans. But to me, when you're in the coaching business or any kind of business, if you don't have a marketing plan and you don't know how to grow revenues, why are you in business? You got to believe in what your product is. And so, yes, it's important that I use a marketing firm to do because I want to use my talents to train and help people. I teach a course on innovation at Arizona State University as well. I'm on a mission to help people be more creative in their lives, to get leaders to be. I think one thing I can tell everybody and about great leadership, more than the great leaders of the world are what I call possess confident humility, meaning we all agree we can get the problem solved. But I don't know the answer. I need you to help do the answer. And that helps me, the leader, from making stupid mistakes. Another thing you can use, and I always advise this, and I always test to see if leaders do it, the sense of humor. Obviously, you have it. Why is humor important? Well, go back to your whole story about why we tell stories. Let's go back thousands of years when we're all running around the plains of Africa with spears. You didn't have a cell phone. You didn't have email. You didn't know that person coming across the plains at you with a spear was an enemy or friend. So they developed signaling to let them know I'm friendly. And they tend to be humorous dancers or whatever it is to convince the other person, don't throw that spear at me. Humor is a critical part of our biology. And what humor does, it gets you from the left analytical brain, where we are right now, into the right side of your brain, which is the creative side of your brain. So humor is an important part of any culture. So I teach leaders, build humor into your culture, make work more fun. Humor helps create, it breaks down barriers. So people aren't so politically driven, and it makes, and it most importantly allows you to make more creative decisions. So that's another quality to look for in leadership. So I put that and I embed it in my teaching and play video clips and I get people laughing, and it just changes the dynamic of a room. So
yeah. I mean, you're so right. I mean, when I have calls with people that don't know me, the first thing I say is I just thank them for their time and say, listen, I get how many messages you get from guys like me. So, and they just start laughing, right? Because they how many pitches and promises do you get all day long in your inbox? So just kind of, getting the elephant out of the room, having a good laugh, and then their guard comes down, and then we can just have a good conversation, kind of see where it goes.
Well, so, I mean, even when the snake bit me, I mean, to turn to the captain and say, if you're Captain Kirk, then I'm the Easter Bunny. I mean, yeah. Both of us were cracking up. The other thing I teach and look for in leadership is emotional intelligence. Now, that seems crazy. Emotional intelligence. We all know emotions like anger, love, fear. Those are not intelligent actions. Those are emotions. How can you talk about intelligent emotions? For example, when that snake, when I turned around, saw me, slithers across, he's standing over on the right-hand side. I've got my hiking pole. And by the way, that's probably what fired him up. They can't hear. They don't have ears. But he must have felt the impact of my hiking pole. At that moment, I was tempted to whack him and put him out. Yeah, you're going to get it, buddy, for nailing me. And then my mind came in and said, wait a second. You don't know how good this snake is. He might be faster than you think he is. And I begged off, only to learn later, had I done it, I might have been bitten a couple more times. So how do we use our intelligence to prevent us from drive-by shootings? People get enraged, pull out a gun, and shoot somebody on a freeway. How do you use your intelligence to moderate your fears or your emotions? And as a leader, you have to be able to do that, or you're in deep, deep trouble. So, and leaders are expected not to make instantaneous emotional decisions, but to bring some sanity to the process. So how do you keep those in check? How do you do that in a leadership role? So look, I'm at a mission, my point in my life. It's to help other people grow. I've done my thing. I've led a lot of organizations, done that enough coming out my years. I don't need to manage people, but I do. I look myself as a teacher, less as a coach and more of a teacher, teaching people the skills to navigate leadership in a business context or any organization. So
No, your experience is great. I love the story. So what advice would you have for someone that's breaking into the space? Obviously, we both know how competitive it is. And such a small percentage of coaches are earning $100,000 a year, sure, which is shocking to me, because there's so much good that they do. What advice would you have for people kind of breaking into the space or trying to get past that income level?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is don't do it unless you have, number one, a bio that says people, same with speaking. Everybody wants to be a speaker, and everyone wants to write a book. What's your biography? What's the story you have to tell? I ask speaker, I want to be a speaker. Well, what would you speak about? You really haven't had much to talk about. Suddenly you want people to listen to you on a stage. So do you have the kind of bio that would warrant other people listening to you? That's number one. And number two, why do you want to do this? If it's just for the money, hang it up. It's too tough a slog. If that's what you're doing, go get another job. You need to do it because you passionately want to help other people. You want to take the joy of what, just as a parent does when a child grows and does better things, or when you actually got around to teaching golf and somebody's golf swing actually got better. Look, the ball's going off the ground instead of backwards. Yeah. So those are the two most important things. And then third, it's a discipline. You need to study it. You need to figure out how to do it. I don't care how good or what you've done in life. Coaching, it's like watching Troy Aikman come out as being a great quarterback. Does that make him a great TV personality? Tom Brady is going to apparently work for one of the big broadcasting things. Well, he's been a great quarterback. Will he be a good announcer? Well, the skills you have right now are quite different from what a golf pro does. So you're going to transition, and you need to say you're starting from ground zero. And that means you've got to learn the profession and do what you need to be effective. And that means a lot of reading, studying, and whatever else you got to do. So
100%. I love that. That's awesome. Well, this has flown by. So I want to respect your time. If people want to get in contact with you, now's your chance to share more about your work and where they can find you.
To make it simple, you just go to LinkedIn, put in Dan Steininger, Steininger. Click on that. Click on my latest newsletter. and hit subscribe so you get a couple tips a month. So how's that? That's what they say, an offer you can't refuse. So.
Yeah, that's perfect. Dan, it's been a pleasure having you on. Great to reconnect. Let's get out and tee it one of these days when you're down here.
Gotcha. Keep swinging for the fences. Take care.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dan. Have a good one. Thank you for joining us on this episode of I Need a Coach. If you've made it this far, I genuinely appreciate your dedication. Putting this podcast together takes a lot of time and energy. And in return, we only ask one thing, which is if you could please leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This helps our show get in front of more people so we can help more people. This is Adam Packard signing off. Keep coaching, keep thriving, and see you in the next episode.